Okay, today is actually our final day on the Olivet Discourse. We've been working on Matthew chapters 24 and 25. We're in a little 2-day period here of exhaling from what has been a very challenging push through these two difficult chapters. And what I want to try to accomplish today is just to boil it down after all of our work, to try to pay off all of our work with just a very simple, understandable overview of what we've discovered as we've worked on 24 and 25. I think we are positioned to make sense of this and point to what's going on here and to set ourselves up for a ton of success in the last little bit of Matthew that happens after these two chapters. So I'm going to let Jeff play some music, and we are going to get right after it. Here is my lightning fast summary that I don't think I could have given before you and I went through this process together, but this is where I'm at right now. The disciples finally come around to believing what Jesus has been saying for 6 or 7 chapters, which is, hey, I'm going to die. I'm going to be killed by the religious leadership. I'm going to be raised back to life. And this whole thing is going to move forward, and you guys are going to play an important role. They argue with them over that for a while, but when they finally get to Jerusalem and they read the political room, they're like, yeah, dang, he's telling the truth. And he's telling the truth about there being a reckoning for this whole system of religious leadership that is in place. And it looks like they finally truly accept that after chapter 23, when Jesus burns every imaginable bridge by pronouncing those 7 woes against the religious leaders. Like, you're not coming back from that. And so by the time we get to the beginning of the Olivet Discourse in 24, they're like, okay, like, clearly this is going to happen. All the things you said, we can't see a way to put the toothpaste back in the tube. But can you just walk us through what this is going to look like? I mean, it's hard for us to believe, but we believe you. So how long do we have to hold down the fort? What should we be looking for? How will we know when you're about to come back so we can kind of allocate our resources right and pace ourselves right and be ready? And Jesus answers the question once again, as we've talked about so many times, by saying a bunch of things are going to happen, guys. That's just the world being the world. You don't really need to change anything. Be faithful, do kingdom value stuff. Don't overreact to all of the rumblings that happen on planet Earth. They've always happened. They're always going to happen. But there is going to be a time where the stuff spoken about in the prophet Daniel, some kind of profaning of the holy, profaning of the temple, is going to occur. Things are going to get tense and difficult at that point. Do what you need to do in that point to do right by people, even for self-preservation. Get away from that epicenter if you need to. But during that time of trial and difficulty surrounding this upheaval, people are going to be saying the Son of Man is here or there. Don't listen to any of that. You will know when I come back, because there's going to be inarguable signs in the heavens. Whenever this day is, you're going to know it was me, and there will be a reckoning at that point. And about that moment, the disciples seem like they're probably pretty overwhelmed. The eye contact says, we're trying to go with you here. This is just so much stuff. We don't have categories for it. Jesus dials down the rhetoric a little bit, and he starts using a series of examples. And those examples, those stories, those parables take us through the rest of the speech to bring clarity to them about where they fit and what they need to be doing in response. And he starts with this little parable about the fig tree. He's like, guys, you can tell when spring's coming. You might not be meteorologists or calendar experts, but you can look and be like, hey, that tree, that's about to pop. That one's about to pop leaves. I can tell springtime is around the corner. Likewise, you guys have enough here to be able to look at what's going on and have a sense of when these things are happening or not happening. And trust me, heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will never pass away. It is going to happen. Then he goes on to talk about how he doesn't know the time when it's going to happen. Like, he's chosen to have that knowledge withheld from him by God's decree. Only his Father knows, which indicates that the point never was to figure out the day it's going to happen. The point is readiness. And then all of chapter 25, well, really even the end of 24, is about this readiness thing. Lots of parables about masters and servants and what the good, wise, shrewd, intelligent, honest servant does. The honest servant who gets it right and understands the situation and their position is like, I don't know when my master's coming back, but I'm going to be ready, and I'm going to conduct myself with the values of the master even while the master is not here. Awesome. Chapter 25, you get the thing about the 10 virgins. I don't know how long it's going to take for my master to do all the things that have to be done with this wedding, but my job is to be ready at any moment for them to come out and for us to lead the bridal procession. but also to have sufficient resources to be in this for the long haul in case they do not come out very quickly. I also got to have the resources and pace out and understand that this timeline really is open-ended, and that is on purpose. And it's not just on purpose, but it's even good, because that's the way the master has willed it. And the nature of my position is to be ready and pacing properly. Then you get the parable of the talents that again indicates what the kingdom citizen should do. And that is, in this interim time, take the resources that the master has invested in you and figure out a way to get a return. I think it's reasonable to look at this parable and be like, and even if the return isn't as dramatic as the one of the characters here get, the biggest thing is understand the character of the master and do something with the moment and the time and the vestedness that is in front of you one way or another. And then the whole thing wraps up by Jesus kind of going big picture and saying, when the Son of Man returns, so now we're out of the interim again, we're out of the here's what you do in the meantime, when the moment comes and the Son of Man returns and everything gets reckoned and sorted out, looking around for evidence of the values of the kingdom being present is going to be significant. And as you hear about this final judgment and reckoning and the end of the order of things as we're used to it, and the beginning of a very visible and realized reign of God in front of everybody, what becomes subtly evident is that the religious leaders do not stack up very well in this matrix of evaluation here in the analogy of the sheep and the goats at the very end. And the whole speech just ends with this ultimatum. Like, there's just one of two things. This is absolutely a 1 or a 0. Like, either someone is a citizen of the kingdom and is therefore treated like a citizen of the kingdom, who's vested in the master's outcomes and values, or one is not a citizen of the kingdom. I didn't write that. I understand how absolutely provocative and challenging such a binary set of options are, but the one who's qualified to say that, or who the text holds out as being qualified to say that, is saying that. It was meant to strike the disciples very firmly and to really give them something to think about. And I believe that echoes through the ages and really gives us something to think about. But it's not the end of the book. The stuff we have coming forward is the stuff that ultimately pushes us one way or another. Does this kingdom seem like the real thing? And is it worth our investment? Is it worth bending the knee? Is it worth throwing our energy at this? Or the reader of Matthew is going to go through the next few chapters and be like, yeah, not enough, not compelling. I'm not sure that's actually worth my heart, my life, my soul, like the whole shebang. But from a strictly literary perspective, those are the stakes of the document we're looking at, and those are the stakes that are in play still in the home stretch. And that's what we're going to be looking at next. Thanks for taking a couple of days to land the plane on chapters 24 and 25, to acknowledge together the challenges that were there, to reflect on it a little bit, and to set the table for what the stakes are and what we're looking at here in the home stretch. I'm really excited about it. I keep saying I'm going to tell you about this new idea I have for Patreon, and it is a really good idea, and it is really cool, but I guess we're just not there yet. So hopefully tomorrow, I always say that, hopefully tomorrow. I appreciate you all so very much. Thank you for being the kind of people, the kind of conversation partners who, by the way you show up and by the way you conduct yourselves, give me the flexibility to be honest in my process here and just put on display whatever I'm working through. I don't write all this stuff in advance. I'm doing this with you, and you are gracious and patient with me as we work it through together, as we honestly work it through together. And I feel like I've been able to do that in chapters 24 and 25. I don't feel like you've put pressure on me to be like the one person who ultimately and finally solves the Bible. It feels like we're peers. It feels like we do this together. And this really has been my most meaningful trip through this kind of material that I've ever had in being around the Bible in general. And I think that's because of you and the feedback that your presence offers here. So you're awesome. I appreciate you a ton. Thanks. We're going to move on to chapter 26 next. I'm Matt. This is the 10-Minute Bible Hour podcast. Let's do this again soon.